24 hours after Bash at the Beach 1996 happened, one question remained. How would WCW and WCW's fans deal with the shocking betrayal of Hulk Hogan? I'm John Renton with the Retro Review of WCW Nitro for July 8th, 1996. I retro-reviewed Bash at the Beach 1996 last year. That's why you will have to go back a little bit in the archives, so to speak, to see what I thought about that. But yes, the monumental betrayal of Hulk Hogan, telling us if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, you people wouldn't be here, telling us how he felt 25 years ago, and this on the 25th anniversary of this show happening. We get to see the fallout, and actually this is a pretty memorable episode because it was in the outdoor venue of Disney MGM Studios. And man, a lot of fireworks, because Disney sure loved to launch a lot of goddamn fireworks for their parades and their shows and whatever. And because they're Disney, they love to have pomp and circumstance and da 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 da. I'm sorry, Randy Savage. The theme is always in my head. But this show is memorable for the fact that commentators talked about, they plugged the fact that we were going to see stills for, from Hulk Hogan's betrayal, joining Hall and Nash and forming the NWO, which was a monumental turn and shift in professional wrestling, especially for WWE versus WCW. And the point where WCW was already winning the ratings war, and they would just start pummeling WWE like into the fucking dirt, and they had him beat, and then they fucking screwed it up about a year and a half later. But anyway, I've talked about that at length. It was cool to see the outdoor venue. Like, even though it was a small crowd, they were a hot crowd. And it was kind of funny that the way they set up the entranceway, it was all the way back here. There were people, looking around the lettering, the giant silver WCW logo. And also there was like a tree right in the middle of the goddamn entranceway, and I don't know why that made me laugh, but it was just funny. Shivani and Zbyszko are here for the first hour, and they talk about, Hogan's betrayal, and Zbyszko hadn't gone, full New World Order yet, because he ran that goddamn thing into the ground, especially, like during the whole height of, late 96 into 97, and Marcus Alexander bagged smell. I mean, Zbyszko had the maturity, basically, that I do when it comes to humor. But anyway, we get stills of Ray and Psychosis and Disco and Dean at Bash at the Beach, where Dean Malenko retained the Cruiserweight Championship and Rey Mysterio beat Psychosis. So we have this Cruiserweight Championship match that basically it wasn't an exact carbon copy of their Great American Bash 96 match. But it had a few similarities, because you're going to get those usual spots. You got the Gutbuster spot, easy for me to say, and Ray hitting some quick offense, and this was a really good opening match. And Dean kept getting, overconfident and everything. At one point, after, Ray missed a moonsault and just crashed on the asphalt, because there weren't a lot of mats, except right around the ring, and Ray, because he had so much spring in his legs at this point, just crashed and burned. And then, Frankensteiner off the top later, and then Gutbuster for Dean. He pulled Ray up, and oh no, you shouldn't do that. He tried to beat him down, and then Ray eventually got the sudden hurricanrana 1, 2, 3, new champion, and he would hold the title until, I think it was at Halloween Havoc 96 or just after Halloween Havoc 96. He would hold it for quite a bit. And then Mean Gene interviewed the Steiners and the Nasty Boys. Scott yells at the Nasty Boys but says he respects them, but the winning team will face Harlem Heat, so they're going to go to war. And then we have the Glacier vignette. Blood runs cold. Man, they were bound determined to push this Glacier character, because Turner got the Mortal Kombat movie and was like, I got the rights to it, so let's have, a collection of Mortal Kombat characters. And bless the guy playing Glacier, Ray Lloyd, I believe is his name. He definitely, invested in the character, and he had some cool offense, ironically, but it came at the wrong time. Had Glacier come a year before, or even 6 months before, it might have made more sense. But by the time they introduced him, that was like mid-September of 96, the NWO and all the realism and, the true-to-life stuff was, ingrained into WCW fans' mindsets, and Glacier was not well-received, which is a shame, because, again, he was a good worker. So Big Bubba and Hugh Morris with Jimmy Hart versus the Blue Bloods, Taylor and Regal with Earl Robert Eaton, a.k.a. Bobby Eaton, and Jeeves. It was heel versus heel. Tenta, even though he beat Bubba in the Silver Dollars on a pole match, it was a sock of silver dollars, a cock sock of silver dollars. Gross. That's why the money's always sticky when, cashiers have to handle it. Ew, I'm a cashier, so I can say that. And he attacks Big Bubba outside the ring, no DQ, and then Morris gets pinned soon after. There we go. And then WCW magazine ad with Sting. Where did they come up with this stuff? Or the kid has the face paint like Sting. I do remember that. It's a nice nostalgia pop. Then Eddie versus Psychosis. No TV entrances, but you know what? They made up for it. After a Ray pre-tape where he's like, I can't believe Hulk Hogan did that. Or maybe it was a live to tape thing. I have no idea. But Ray talked about that and was backstage in the locker room. And then Psychosis ended up crotching himself on the spot on the bottom rope, ouch, and would then do, a crash and burn outside, taking out Eddie. He focused on Eddie's shoulder when he slammed it into the post. We get an inverted atomic drop off the rope. How is that not DQ? Because it's a low blow. People are like, oh no, he's hitting the ass. No, it's a low blow. Like, that's what it fucking is. I mean, I'm just saying. But anyway, Hurricanrana up to top for 2. Eventually, Superplex, Frog Splash, 1, 2, 3. Eddie getting the victory. Eddie would go on to face Ric Flair at Hog Wild 1996. I might retro review these Nitros up to Hog Wild 96 and maybe even the Fall Brawl 96 because that's a nice little, time capsule. I'm doing so many videos, I can't promise anything. Anyway, Mean Gene interviews the Giant, Kevin Sullivan, and Jimmy Hart. He asked Jimmy, hey, what do you think about what Hulk Hogan did? This is right after Jimmy Hart had turned on Hulk Hogan and joined the Dungeon of Doom, or a number of months afterwards, but still. Hey, Jimmy, what do you think about Hogan turning heel, even though you turned heel on Hogan and whatever? And then Sullivan was like, every time I look in the mirror, I see Chris Benoit, and I see a madman. Oh, talk about things that haven't aged well. So the Giant says, don't worry, I've got the title, and everything is good. He's got a point. He is a champion, and people were forgetting about him. So the Nasty Boys took on the Steiner Brothers in Contenders match. It was power stuff. The Steiners got pops for their moves because, of course, they did. The second hour pyro in the mid-match where, they would have the countdown with a little stick of dynamite and then it would explode and they would have all the, the pyro and stuff like that. But they also had the Disney MGM pyro that kept going. And we get a chair shot by Sags to Scott on the outside. No DQ. Sherry and Colonel Rod Parker show up. Colonel Rod Parker hits Sags with a K in the back of the head. Scott covers 1, 2, 3. And then the Disney Park fireworks really start going off, and they go off for like 20 fucking minutes. It's insane. But anyway, Mean Gene interviews the Nasty Boys. Weird promo. Change is inevitable, says Sags. Brian says he didn't see anything wrong with what Hogan did, because of course Knobs would say that because he's friends with Hogan, but also because they were going to kind of phase the Nasty Boys out from being a team, because Sags would leave the company soon after. I think he would leave by early 97 or mid 97. Then Ric Flair versus Jim Powers for the U.S. Championship. Boy, Rick had to carry some guys that were... It's not that Jim Powers was bad. He had a good look and he had some good fire, but outside of that teaming with Paul Roma, does anybody really remember anything substantial Jim Powers did? Just saying. He was never allowed to really do anything except kind of be an enhancement guy. So Rick... game a lot. Woman made her presence known and screamed a lot at ringside. And then about 10 years later, oh no, this isn't going to... Actually, it was about 11 years later. Moving on from that. So, figure 4 for the win. That's about it. So, then Mean Gene interviews the Horseman minus Benoit, who's going to be in a match later. They say what Hogan did was terrible. And they talk about their accolades. Flair wants the Giant, even though Flair is a U.S. champion, having just beat Conan 24 hours before at Bash at the Beach 96. And then Bischoff and Heenan talk about, the impending NWO invasion. But we got a bunch of guys. It's all right. And then Benoit versus Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman with Teddy Long. This is that nonstop aggression that is trademark Benoit. And then Heenan makes a comment about how he will just target you and beat you down and everything and just rip your body apart. And again, stuff that hasn't aged well. So eventually... after some chops and strikes, the crossface is on Pittman, and Teddy Long didn't want his guy to suffocate or suffer or whatever because he wouldn't give up, so he threw in the towel. Bit weird that. And then Sting took on Arn Anderson. It was good as expected, even though it was short for a TV match. Arn did have his injuries that would be exacerbated, which is a really funny word to say, and I tried not to laugh, but I am a mature individual, and I will not laugh at exacerbated. Man, he's exacerbating all over himself. Anyway... Arn did have injuries that would get, again, exacerbated. Snicker, snicker. Hogan heard something different, by the way, at Fall Brawl 96. In fact, I do have to retro review that one. That's one of my favorite WCW pay-per-views. The commentary mentions that, we may have visitors. And then during the commercial break, they have the blood runs cold thing because they're bound determined to push Glacier. And then Arn grinds him down and gets a Boston Crab on. We cut to Hall and Nash arriving while somebody else is in the limo, obviously Hogan. And security. they try to basically separate them because they got to keep them separated. Hey, Randy Savage shows up, and then the Scorpion unarmed through all this for the victory. And then the Outsiders leave. Mean Gene interviews Sting. Sting says he's not surprised at what Hall and Nash did, but he's surprised at Hogan. And he says, well, you told the fans they could stick it? No, you stick it, Hulk. Is when Sting was starting to get a little darker. I mean, not just his hair, but just, a little more of his character. Savage then knocks Hogan, in his usual way, because Savage was always better than Hulk Hogan. Mean Gene then interviews Hall and Nash as fans leave in droves. Seriously, they're like, show's over, goodbye, we're leaving. At this point, it was kind of phoned in. It was very promo-heavy second half, but it made sense. It's like, we proved ourselves last night. Next week, Hogan will be here. And then closing with stills of the Bash at the Beach, main event where Hogan turned heel and pretty much, again, cut the promo of his life, and it was really memorable. But those are my thoughts on that. If you want me to retro review the summer of 1996 for WCW, including the pay-per-views, let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.